Hi and welcome. 2014 is almost over, and before it does, I'm going to recap on as much as I can about the last year, and then I'm going to say some things about the year to come up, 2015. Now, little bit about my personal life. I've had 7 credits during the summer, and those of you who are in college know that those classes are sped up and they're a pain in the fucking ass, and they take a lot of fucking studying time. And then in the fall, I took another 7 credits while working mandatory overtime at work. So I've got 8 to 9 hours of work. Then I've got 2 hours of class. Then I've got hours of studying. Then I've got hours of prepping for the test, which is separate from the studying because you may have like a miniature test come up or a project you have to do on top of a fucking midterm or something. And there's just no time. Luckily, however, I did get an A in Survey of Math. I only got a C in Programming Logic. I'm really going to have to re-go over that material again if I intend to, continue my education into programming, but I'll probably do that on my own rather than taking classes in it. At the moment, I have to take at least 6 credits per semester or pay back student loans. I don't have the money to pay back. However, I did make a giant purchase this year, and that purchase was a Nissan Leaf. For those of you who don't know, a Nissan Leaf is an all-electric car. 99.9% of all my driving involves me driving to work, then driving to school, then driving home, and somewhere along the line, making side trips to grab groceries and other random shit. So, that's basically what I've been doing. Lots of studying, lots of working. I try to make some YouTube comments here. I've got friends who want me to chime in on their conversations randomly here and there. I've called bullshit on some MGTOWs. I've called some bullshit on some feminazis. And yes, they are Nazis. There's a reason they're called feminazis. And this isn't Godwin's law. This is simply attributing when one acts and uses the same structure and social bullshit that the Nazis used to control people and to shame them and to manipulate them, and people use those same tactics to get what they want. I don't care who you are in the world, that makes you a Nazi. Not maybe in the get rid of a race kind of sense, but that was only part of what made the Nazis the Nazis. It was their huge nationalism and their true Scotsman fallacy that they kept using, and ad homs and all the other random kind of, well, it was highly structured actually, attacks to control people, right? And feminists seem to be doing the exact same thing. But feminists aren't the only ones who've used this social tactics. Back in the day, they had you up on trial for un-American activities. People like Howard Hughes was called up in front of the same type of Senate boards. The same bullshit was used on Tucker, who made that famous car, obviously Tucker, named after him, and a scandal involving the exact same senator from Maine, right? And if you look at the McCarthyism that happened there, like if you were a communist or you had any kind of friends who were communists, you were accused of being a communist, your career was fucking over, okay? Unless you had a lot of connections, no matter, even if you were in the military, your future had a very possible abrupt ending just at the accusation. But moving on from our little, history rant there, I've made as many comments as I could on Twitter and YouTube, and I haven't gotten back to everybody because I've got about 4 videos I'm trying to make simultaneously, and I need some props to make some of the other videos. And I'm doing research to do other videos, so it's not easy constructing something and making it and packing it and then taking all the time it takes to edit a video. There's a lot of editing that goes involved, and I made a video for my family. I tried to do it as best as I could, with the highest quality possible, making the best judgments I could, and even so, it took us like 5 or 7 hours to edit it. Okay, and I really try to get it done and send it out and have it uploaded by Christmas afternoon, and it there was problems with the upload from the software because it had an ability to just updo it automatic, like straight from the software to YouTube, and that didn't work out. So we had to save it on the desktop, and it's just a headache. And that was just a very small video that I already shot a year ago. So I don't know. Various people are going to have various different understandings of video editing and using different formats and everything else, but this video I'm getting done tonight. So here we go with a bunch of the stories from 2014, and my first one involves a boy who was raped. 14-year-old boy's raped. Now it's rape because it's statutory. He's 14. Okay, and he's raped by a full adult woman. Fast forward to 2014, he's 22 years old, and he finds out that he has 6 years of child support he's expected by the state to pay back. Went to court. Judge says, nope, you have to pay it. Doesn't matter that you were raped. You're a man and you need to man up. Even though you were raped, you had no choice in the child being born. You had no, it's statutory rape. I mean, if this had been a 14-year-old girl, how would we be responding right now? There would be a whole outrage if a 14-year-old girl was raped and then forced to have that child. People would have come out way out of the woodworks for her. Not many came out of the woodworks for him. Where were all the feminists when they were talking about equality? Oh yeah, they're complaining about people halfway around the world who are also being raped. So they're worried. They're worried about someone being raped 5,000 miles away, but couldn't give a rat's ass if it's 50 to 500. I have a problem with that. Which brings me on to the next guy. He was put in jail for 1,000 years, prison. Jail and prison are different. I like to be accurate when I make videos like this. 1,000 years in prison because he kept 3 women captive for 10 years in his basement. Police said, why didn't the police investigate? How come the police didn't know about this when they were called out twice before? Well, when you get a noise complaint, they have to have probable cause to get into your house. All you have to say is, I do not consent. And while it sucks that these women were in the basement, without these basic rights, even though sometimes bad things result in the police not, barging in, it would be 1,000 times worse for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. The corruptness would have no end. The reason we have these laws in place to protect us from law enforcement, they have very, very solid ground historical reasoning, and I highly suggest you look up what those reasons really are, especially the freedom of speech. With the beginning of this year, the Cleveland City PD, they had a mass investigation go throughout all the cops, and honestly, I'm not happy with a lot of the reprimands that the police got in the previous year when they murdered 2 people in a car, and one of the police officers said, well, I didn't feel safe, and that's why I did what I did. And what this cop did was he jumped on the front of his car, the hood, pulled out his gun, and shot 139 bullets into 2 armed civilians. I don't know about you. I've seen a bunch of cop movies. I've seen them hide behind their car doors. I've seen them hide behind, like, bulletproof vests. I've seen them hide behind a number of things. Not once have I ever seen a cop be safe by jumping on top of his car, the front of it, and fire bullets from it. And not only did he help or was mostly responsible for the murder of these two civilians, whether they were guilty of previous crimes or not, whether they were not society's best, or even if they were total scum, they were still human beings, and we still have a process of arresting people that we need to honor, and especially in the cases where people are innocent, in which case it seemed like these two people were just gunned down for no real reason. Someone called in something about them being shot, but they didn't find a gun at the scene. They didn't find any gun in the car, and you had over 100 cops chasing them. You had 62 police cruisers chasing one car because supposedly the station was shot at. This seems like gang violence to me. This doesn't seem like something the police should be doing, or at least responding in this way. I mean, if you kill a Crip or a Blood member, the whole gang, all the Crips, all the Bloods, come after you. That's why they have the term gang wars. And this is the kind of action you'd see from a gang war or a gang retribution. This isn't something you're supposed to see from people who took an oath to serve and protect. Although, interestingly, the Supreme Court has ruled several times that they have no obligation to protect you, especially when their own lives may be in danger. So, you take that for what it's worth. And moving on to Mike DeWine, and he was running for governor of the state, and he had uncovered a whole bunch of scandals and illegal activities by a bunch of officials throughout Ohio. And he goes to run, and we find out that even when he was in the FBI, he never had a driver's license. And he's driving around. He's been caught several times driving around, and he never had a driver's license. Sometimes he had a learner's permit, but he's in the FBI, and he doesn't even have a driver's license. I don't even know how that is even possible, but somehow he got away with it for over 10 years. And that scandal pretty much shot him down. Now, some of the good stories we've had Albert Minero, who's an engineer, who constructed an artificial arm for a 6-year-old who started, well, when you're 6 years old, you start identifying like who you are. It's your stage of separating yourself via personality from someone else rather than physical things you do. If you ask a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old, the typical answer is, well, that's Susan. Susan is the girl with the brown hair, or Margaret is the woman with the blonde hair, and so forth. And they really start to self-identify, and sense of self is constructed. And this 6-year-old boy realizes that he's different from everybody else because he doesn't have a hand. His arm only goes down halfway, and it just stops there. So this engineer, he constructs this arm, and then he puts up the blueprints for free. That's, he made the arm and gave it to the 6-year-old for free. And he put the blueprints online. And it cost $350. So that's actually really decent. But another funny kind of good news, we have the potato salad Kickstarter, which was originally for $10 and then accumulated something along $55,000. And he had a huge block party type thing where they had all sorts of potato salad type of dishes, and then they donated the rest of the proceeds to charity and all that sort of good stuff. And other ridiculous news, we have BuzzFeed came out with this whole manspreading thing. That's where when a guy is on a bus or public transportation, like the subway system or whatever, and his legs, his knees, are any distance far apart, it's called manspreading, in which they claim only men do it, except we've seen women do it. They claim the issue is men taking up more space than they need when traveling and it being a huge problem, except there's a lot of women who have a whole seat for just their purse or bag or whatever they're carrying. Women who lay their legs down across the whole way so people don't sit down and talk to them, and other women who sit with their legs apart. And I'm sorry, but BuzzFeed, I'm so sick of your sexist videos that I actually had to unsubscribe. I'm really sick of this only women have these problems or worry about these issues. It's just this gynocentric crap. And I'm sorry, but I had to unsubscribe, and I'm not going to watch any more of your videos. I'm sorry. It's too much of a joke. And that leads me to the hashtag #YesAllWomen and the whole get rid of Stephen Colbert. I mean, that was just really, really ridiculous. Especially since Anita went really hypocritical and went on his show. You know, you want him to be canceled, but you're going to go on his show? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And the hashtag #YesAllWomen was incredibly sexist because, one, it wasn't all women. Not all women feel the same way or experience the thing these feminists perpetuate. And not only that not all women view the same situation the same, and not all women are going to feel the same about the same kind of situation. Which actually started the hashtag #NotYourShield, where a lot of women were sick and tired of being used for feminist propaganda bullshit. Especially like this supposed sexism in video games. Which leads me, again, to another story, which was Gamergate. Now, Gamergate finds a story where a woman is having sex with a whole bunch of publishers. Now, normally that's none of my business, it's none of your business, it's none of anyone's business, except for the fact that these were game developers, or game publishers, and she was a game developer. So we have a severe conflict of interest. I mean, imagine for a moment, you're in court, right? Your life is on the line. You are innocent. You are fighting. You are standing and saying, I did not commit this crime. You get sentenced to 10 years in prison, and then you find out that the entire time the prosecuting attorney was fucking the judge. Would you be pissed? Yeah, because it's a clear case of conflict of interest. So when a game developer and a game publisher are in bed like this, I mean, when I look up reviews for a game, I want to know that the game actually has quality. Now they say, well, the game can be bought online for free. Well, you know, not really bought. You can download it for free, but she still gets money from it. That she has other venues where she's using this game in order to collect money, especially through donations and Patreon and stuff. And then we have Bill Cosby, accused of rape by about 30 women, I think, at this point. And one of the women, and I'm going to quote my biological mother here, she said, I don't buy it. One of the one blonde woman I saw on TV talking about her experience said that she started dating him after he was raped. After he raped her. Who dates the rapist? I mean, this isn't a case of Stockholm Syndrome. This is a case where a woman, okay, had a very brief introduction to Bill Cosby, had a brief relationship, like, professional-wise. Supposedly, he drugged and raped her, and then after that, full well knowing, supposedly, that she was raped, that she then has a relationship with him. This doesn't make sense. And a lot of the other women who've come forward with stories, while all the stories have a continual theme, there are so many holes in all of them. And even, this is why I gotta salute Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg, you are fucking awesome in just about every way possible. So, you rock, babe. You are totally fucking awesome. And the reason I didn't like Ninja Turtles half as much as I would have liked to is because you only had like 2 scenes in the damn movie. Ninja Turtles needs more Whoopi! Now we come to the sad part of the video, where we have our honorable mentions. And again, one story leads into another. And in this case, Whoopi Goldberg leads me into the death of Robin Williams. Robin Williams' suicide, it impacted me in so many different ways that there's never going to be enough time to cover it all in one video. I hope to do a tribute to him later when I have time, but the fact is I probably won't. I barely have time to get the basic programs and videos, projects I want done. And I'm going to be taking some pretty hard classes next semester. And I might be going back on mandatory overtime on top of that. But Robin Williams took his own life this year. And prior to him dying, John Pinette passed away due to health-related issues. I mean, he was fat and he pretty much died from being severely obese. But it's better to really live for one day than to not really live for 5. And John Pinette, he was so full of this energy and humor. He's one of the funniest comedians I've ever come across, and I've seen a lot of comedians. And shortly after Robin Williams died, we had Joan Rivers kick the bucket, and she is in my absolute favorite movie of all time, which is Spaceballs. She played Dot Matrix, the android/robot, kind of a midway between them. And my favorite line that she did was, "That was my Virgin alarm. It's programmed to go off before you do." And now, with all the things that I had to mention in 2014, we go on to the future. The very, 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 very near future, as it's almost 11:30. We were all told that one day we'd have hoverboards and flying cars and shoes that would tie themselves and jackets that would dry themselves, but we won't. And we're slowly learning this fact, and we're becoming very, very pissed off.